Christensen. I identify as a human, and as a human, you laugh at that. Is that a surprise? That's good. Any non-humans in the audience today? A couple. You are welcome too. This is a safe space, it's inclusive, and it's a brave space. I want to tell you a little bit about AI 2030, but before I do, humanity check for all the humans in the audience. Robots can participate as well. Cue the Nicolas Cage. On a scale of Nicolas to Cage, how are you feeling about AI today, right now? It's something to think about for a minute. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it. Then I'm going to ask you to share with the person next to you. Okay, you've shared. So, shout it out. What are you guys feeling? Ladies, gentlemen? I heard scared. I heard focused. Raise your hand if you're feeling focused about AI. Yes. Raise your hand if you're feeling caged, bees about AI. Yes, there's a couple. Great. Anyone feeling carefree and happy? I see you. That's great. Wonderful. Well, whichever one of those you are, that's important because it helps you identify as a human. If you were to ask an AI, I don't know if they'd answer the same way. But it's also important to see how you're feeling changes by the end of this today, if at all. I asked someone from the U.S. Department of State Cybersecurity the same question. I said, I'm stressed. No matter what we do, we're motivated to move faster than we think is safe when it comes to AI and cybersecurity. Now, I don't know if that's true of the whole administration. It was a different administration. But there's that. We're going to hopefully look at the positive here, because that's where I identify. So, I told you my name is Ben Christensen. It's true, but it's only the name that I tell people. It's only the name that I tell AI, actually. My real name is Fleming Benjamin Christensen. And I go through all this because Fleming is not a first name in this country, or any country except Denmark, where my mother is from. I'm named after my Danish grandfather. So when I moved to Denmark 20 years ago, when I was 22, cool, surprise somebody, yeah. 20 years ago, when I was about 22, I moved to Denmark, and I said, they're gonna understand me here. Fleming is a first name. What's your name? Fleming. That's an old man's name. Yes, it is an old man's name, so I went by Ben after all. But now you know the secret. Dear trusted humans, Fleming Benjamin Christensen. You can call me Flem now if you want. But Ben is what I prefer to go by. I want to introduce Gold. Gold Darr, will you introduce yourself for a minute?
Sure, I can do that.
Yes.
So I am your mostly human moderator today, and my name is actually Gold. I have a background kind of OG AI. I did my doctorate work in this about 15 years ago, before LLMs were the popular thing in decision support systems, doing real-time geospatial analysis of disaster scale events, coordinating both human and robotic resources, real-time weather information, like the full 9 yards. And then we've been watching this slow trickle into usage ever since. So I've been waiting for everyone to catch up. I'm happy you're here. And we finally reached a point where we can do some really fun things. And this is why I'm on the scale of focus, because we all definitely have these days. I'm very aware of what's possible. But I operate from a space where I came at this from the language of math, which I fundamentally consider to be the language of truth. I have a very unusual background. My father was an anthropologist who became a software architect, and they taught me math, coding, and language skills at the same time, starting as 3 years old, as the same concept, that this was a way of articulating my reality around me. So when I think about AI and I think about what's good and when I think about what's bad, the only way you know the difference between those is what we call a boundary condition. How many people do I have with technical backgrounds in the audience here? Yeah, boundary conditions are really helpful, right? It's what defines the difference between that chair and the floor, between your skin and the air, because they're all electrons. How do we group them? And boundary conditions are where we find the tipping points of what we're trying to do and what we're really trying not to do. And so most of my work is then functionally at this intersection point where like everything can be used for really cool purposes. I do work in environmental systems, I do work in social governance, I do work at government scale, I do work at individual scale, I do B2C, I do B2B. I've developed almost 250 technologies. I started college at 12, and I'm really interested in getting shit done fast. And that is the world we live in now. So yeah, let's talk some about the social contract. Because the thing about everything I just said is an AI in 5 years is still gonna make me look stupid. Which means we have a lot of work to do to try and make sure that this stays a collaborative process and not one where we have just outsourced our reality.
Well said. And there's a million things interesting about gold, but the one that I find I'm really grateful for, is that AI 2030, the group that sponsors this event, is how I met Gold. And it was actually just, 8 months ago, back in the day of, Claude 3 or whatever, I don't know, it's on it. Whatever that was, AI 2030. I joined this group, and on the climate team, AI and climate, those are my things. And I got the chance to meet Gold. I get to meet the chance to meet all sorts of folks, but the human connections are what really matter. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, is famous for saying the meeting of two personalities is like the combination of two chemicals. If there's any reaction, both are transformed. I'd like you to think about that in terms of how you interact with each other. Thank you, Gold. Because I come away transformed because of our interaction, because it wasn't just inert. And I assume that's how it is with you and the people you meet in your lives. Possibly the AIs you interact with are transformed by your interaction as well. But you also come away different too. I don't know if Carl Jung had that in mind. That's spooky. What is AI 2030? AI 2030 is a think tank, a member-based initiative globally to advance humanity with AI while mitigating its negative effects. Because there are some. There are consequences to all of this. You can get involved in the Institute. It's a free member. In fact, if you're not a member, who's a member of AI 2030? Great. Check it out. Well, you're here now. I hope that you find the opportunities you're looking for. Startup matchmaking, venture, institute, certifications, as well as the G20 Regulation Index, how we're benchmarking countries and companies on their interoperability of responsible AI principles. One of the things that I love about AI 2030 is that we add sustainability to what's typically a standard list of NIST-approved principles of AI. NIST being the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Fairness, accountability, transparency, safety, security. Sustainability is crucial to all of this as well. That's just a little bit of AI 2030. Apply to become a member, apply to become a speaker. Today you have the chance to interact, and I hope that you'll use that opportunity well. I'm looking at Andrew Zhang. I don't know if you guys know Andrew, but please take the chance to meet him later. So, I want to ask you all a question. Cue the Slido. Nico? So, Gold's told you a lot so far, but Gold is also a person who is truly an OG AI technology pioneer. Built startups, technologies, has her portfolio of impact and startup technology in AI. Did you mention that already? Because I want to make sure that got covered. Basically changing the world. Question for you all, a challenge. I dare you. Join this. Can you name data that you haven't shared with AI yet?
And when he asked that question, I need you to remember that anytime you've accepted something and not read those terms and conditions, you should assume it is harvesting your data and it is feeding into someone's AI.
Your dinner.
Anyone here who has done something like 23andMe has in fact fed their data to an AI. Oh, passwords. Definitely, if you've used any of the password storage machines, any of the autofills, the AI definitely have access to that.
Second person.
Addresses, any of you that have ever used Google Maps or Apple Maps, congratulations, all of that address information is with an AI. Date of birth, if you have ever filled out your name on a single form to accept terms and conditions, it is in an AI.
Terms and conditions, there's that term again. So thank you 5 participants who are typing so far.
Ooh, the internal thoughts is a really interesting one because Ben and I were talking about this on the train ride over. It turns out one of the top uses now of the LLM models is people using them to help figure out personal life decisions. So a lot of people are feeding their internal thoughts, and theoretically at least, as of yesterday, it is now statistically more effective at doing couples counseling than a human operator, which I think says a little bit more about our education system because clearly it means that we have the body of research to support it, or the AI wouldn't have been able to ingest that data. So the question is how we're using our own.
Gold, I'm really glad that you said that because it reminds me of a terrifying bit of data, exciting bit of data that I recently discovered. When it comes to youth, what do you think youth are using AI for the most? The top 2 things? Well, the data that I have is telling me companionship. Companionship is the thing that youth are using AI most for. How many of you have used AI of some kind for companionship? And it's pretty good, bad, sad? Good, bad. Good. Rewarding. The second most use of AI by youth was coaching life decisions, major life decisions. Now, on a scale of Nicolas Cage, how do you feel about that use of AI by youth? Unreliable, that's fair. Ben's first name has not been shared with AI. Don't you dare do it. There's private information.
So the really interesting thing about all of this is that AI, I really believe it's important that it be collaborative. This is the word I used earlier, right, as a process. And when you think about that, I need everyone to remember that the only way that that's true is if you are using it the way you would a good personal relationship, which is acknowledging that it is a mirror, that your actions feed in and their actions back are reflecting something about your behavior as well and your inputs into this system. And so when you think about any of these, AI is going to be much more honest in how it's engaging with you than you are with yourself about things like profit incentives and whether it's being rational or irrational in its decision-making process. So the issue with like a lot of these things, like should it be doing therapy? Honestly, it can ingest so much data that you actually can get someone who has all of these amazing expertise areas that might be able to help you a lot more than someone that you can find with calendar availability to talk to. But the question is, do they have a systematic profit incentive for you to get better or not? And the difference in between that question for an AI versus a human becomes very nuanced as soon as you understand, is it owned by a corporation? Is there VC incentive there? What is the governance structure? And so when you think about whether or not you should be scared of AI, you should be much more worried about your corporate governance and the corporate governance of the groups that you're participating with, because that is really what motivates us. And the underlying factor from that is if they operate under something that in the US legal system you have an actual legal obligation to maximize profit. Not shareholder value, not long-term value, current profit in an operating quarter. This is absolutely antithetical to using AI effectively for long-term value creation with customers. So if your business model operates on the value basis of creating profit that doesn't align with long-term value creation, then your use of AI will inevitably become something that you should be concerned about sharing your information with. So the issue here is not what it's capable of, it is the business model that it is functioning on something that is good for you?
I usually don't think about whether it's good for me. So thank you for reminding me. It's more of a feeling. This is going to be good for me. I would use this. But that puts me in a technical determinist approach. Who here identifies as a technological determinist? It's a thing where we tend to feel like technology is going to, by definition, be a good thing. Gold told me not to bring this up, but remember when we invented fire as a species? Well, I don't either, but it was unregulated fire at the beginning. And AI is a type of technology. I could have gone to the internet, but I went back to fire. And now we have fire doors, we have a fire extinguisher there, we have protocols. You shouldn't yell fire in a crowded room like this unless there is one. It's a social contract. That's regulated fire. We regulated that. Thank you for permitting me, Gold, to go there. But when it comes to the terms and conditions, who here has signed a terms and conditions in the last year for anything? Who here has sent terms and conditions out in the last year? Your own. Yeah, interesting. Were those your personal terms and conditions, or was it part of a corporate or a group or institution? Goody. I'm so glad nobody raised their hand, except kind of Mike Albrecht in the first. You might have to explain that. That's good. Because the scope of your data has rights, and especially now in this age. If you were to write a will, that would be for the will of how your stuff would get managed after you die. But what if you could have a mind terms of how, while you're still living, your name and image and likeness, which you'll hear from Digit Murphy later today, or these other bits of data that you haven't shared or more likely have already shared with AI, how far does that go? Scope that out. What if you could send a proactive my terms and conditions of how my data will be used in AI to negotiate with the AI agents coming at you from municipal, the city you live in, from corporations, from others, and that it wouldn't actually slow the whole process and bring everything to a grinding halt because of all those negotiations. That's possible now, and I would argue essential. The good news is there's much smarter people who have turned me on to this idea, which is why I built a workshop out of it. And it's the IEEE 7012 team. Shout out to the 7012 team, also known as my terms and conditions. And this is, I'm going to call out their names: Andrew Sussman, Doc Searles, Joyce Searles, John Havens, Ian Henderson, and others. My terms and conditions, we won't have time for it in this session, but we want to spark your minds on how you're scoping your own terms and conditions as a proactive agent to interface with the AIs of your time right now. The value of what your data is in any age, before we were all into the AI business, was important, but ever so more now. An inverse to this question would be, can you name data that you have shared with AI? That would probably be much more prolific in its sharing.
Yeah, okay, so I would like to propose, and this is not something we discussed previously, that when you think about the social contract of AI, I would like you to reframe this problem to yourself as, can you say that you just want it to actually be net better for you every year? Because I think it's really fascinating that we live in a place and time in which you genuinely expect that every single year there will be a new phone that you can upgrade to that is better, that is has a longer battery life, that has faster processing time, that has all these additional features. But you don't expect that from your life. You don't expect that from your cost of goods. You expect all those things to get worse. You expect your real estate options to get worse. You expect all these other things to be held, but you expect your technical products to get better. Why? Why would that be the case? Why not expect improvement across all of those areas? Because that is actually what AI will allow you to do. We'll stop saying that we don't think it's possible to advance these other areas. We can disrupt
any existing business model, government structure, etc. with AI. So start demanding something better.
Yeah. Start demanding something better. This is now a rally.
I think we really can do that. And like, so some of the things that I'm working on that I think are genuinely true with this.
Tell us, what are some of the things that you're working on?
Yeah, so I'm working with a company that's in the real estate space. Thank you to our host here, Andrew, who's prepared a lovely space for us, that will use AI in such a way that when you're searching for something new, that you can input all these things about your life, because you do want to share data with things that can use that data to improve your existence, right? So if you can query it and be like, look, I want to be able to buy this type of food at this type of price point. I need my kids to be able to go to this kind of school. Here are all the criteria about how I live my life. Show me options that are actually physically located, geographically located, have light that's coming in the right rooms, that when I wake up in the morning, I've got my data that actually works for me without visiting 100 properties. That's just good tactical use of AI that can pull in all kinds of information in order to deliver those kinds of results. And then we can turn around and use that information with connected companies to do things like build better transit routes to make sure that all the activities you're trying to go to are like smoother and better every day. And it's less about extracting value from you and more about catering to the life that you're really trying to live. Because that's what good data allows you to do better. And then, on the B2C side, what I've said before with this is a mirror. I actually do have a company I even named that because I really wanted it to be true. And it's tackling the relationships industry.
That's the name.
Yeah,
Listen to this.
We are wanting to completely disrupt dating to say, look, it's not really about finding any more person. We have options for high throughput to like match with an individual. Nobody really has time to do any of those things. But worse than all of those, what the data really says is we don't know how to build relationships anymore. We don't know how to repair them. We don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to build something worth keeping. And that's what Mirror is doing, is it's using high fidelity data and a completely different revenue model to say we want to teach people to build something worth keeping together. That you should want to stay on that service because it integrates directly into therapy. It doesn't try to replace that as a service, but it tries to give insight so that you can build and maintain the types of relationships that you want, where AI is the moderator that takes out the difficulty of having hard conversations and allows you to work through your trauma and your insecurity without directly projecting it onto a partner, but still using human checkpoints in the system instead of just saying, suggest me a better message to send, because that doesn't teach you something. You should be constantly in the process of teaching an AI and having AI teach you so that you are both leading transform.
And do you feel like you're teaching AI? I gotta ask this. Do you feel like you're manipulating the algorithms or being manipulated? Yes? Serena?
Yes.
Would you explain yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Serena. Actually, I very have strong feeling about you tell us about the AI select mirror. I shift the AI as a companion and I put actually whole my soul into the AI and I build out my own framework. And so also all of this system make me feel like AI is the future like to shape or managing you being a better person. So for example, if you go to another direction, maybe the AI will be like extremely make it bigger, make you worse, because they have like a big knowledge about how you're being worse. But if you want to be a better person, they're gonna make it bigger and bigger and deeper. That's what AI is. And also, I'm happy to tell you and share you one thing, and I even built up a music with AI. The name is Mirror Error. So if you like to listen, you will feel what I'm saying.
Say it again.
Mirror Error, the music.
I hear major laser, but you're saying
Mirror Error.
major error.
Error is like 404 on the page.
Major error.
Mirror Error.
Mirror error. Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. It's also AI is like shaping. It's like a building like I feel like from the human conscience and soul, you can make the AI feel something. Seriously, that's what I found out. So that's why I built everything, and I'm trying to share with people.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank
It
you,
is
Serena.
very interesting because one of the things that I think I hear the most is this concern about like, well, what is going to be the place for people? Is this a threat to my job? Like, surely there's always a place for humans, yada, 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 yada. And I think it's really interesting because it tends to illuminate as a mirror that we hold our value in all the wrong places. Realistically, in 10 years, no job can't be done better by AI.
10 years or 5 years?
Probably 5. Trying to be optimistic for everyone.
When is the singularity, real quick, when is the singularity happening? Anybody?
Somebody with the current countdown.
We did a little poll before. Okay.
But, you know, the issue is not whether or not an AI will be able to be tactically better at what you do. You need to take that as an opportunity to ask, what would you do if you didn't have to do anything? Like, what is the mandate of your soul? And it's a pretty real question, actually. You should be using AI collaboratively to try and figure out, how do I want to add value? What am I inspired to do? How do I become the person that does that? And like, your value needs to not be defined by pushing a clock. And you need to be fighting for a society that leverages AI to understand that this is the reality of the labor movement. And I realize that's like a little far-flung, it might be a little scary, and there's a lot of work to do in the next 5 years, and you'll have tons of labor restructuring, and like, this is a tomorrow's problem. But it is also a real problem. For something, an organization like AI 2030 that does also deal in the governance side, this is a very real thing. Please do not hold your value in the inherent speciesist assumption that like, because you are human, that you are always better, more valuable, and are going to have a purpose punching the clock. Because that's like not actually the reason that you are valuable, but you are valuable, and you need to spend real time and thought to figure out why.
How long are you here today?
Till 5.
That's how long you have to catch her, but there's other programming. And speaking of which, you named the magic word clock. What's our time?
5 to 1.
5 to 1. Great. That leaves us 5 good minutes. Gold. Will you recap key message that you want to share today?
Key messages that we should share. So we were talking about social contract. I really do think that you should expect better. I think that you should use AI to consistently think about, if you could redesign the system from scratch and assume that there was not a cost burden associated with how you wanted to do it better, what should it look like? And genuinely build from there. Have the will to do that. 2, I think that there's extremely, like, word that we've used a lot here is terms and conditions. You should be hyper aware of organizations that are reforming the legal side of these processes. Expect to see all kinds of lawsuits in the next few years associated with data privacy, associated with lots of different industries, as we can now coordinate better data with AI, especially in environmental systems and other places. Real estate, other industries, I expect to see a lot of transformation, and be aware of the kind of data you're giving to AI, and do think of this as a mirror for your own behaviors and how you are collaborating, because you should be collaborative. Do not just become somebody who outsources, because then you will have lost your value before you found it.
Thank you for being human. This is generative HI, human intelligence in real time. And I hope that you find greater value in that. And you come away with the spark of, I need to scope out my terms and conditions. Also the people in my life that I love, I hope they do that as well, so that they're actively shaping. I'll leave you with this. In the last 4 years, in 40 countries and 500,000 surveys, Diversity Atlas has, which is an analytics platform, has identified 700 trillion different combinations of human identity. That's just a fancy way to say what we all probably know, we're as unique as a fingerprint, each of us. And yet, there is no IEEE standard for human identity yet, which is probably okay because we're not a technology. Or are we? But if we're interfacing with technologies, I push for an IEEE standard for human identity, as scary as that is, because classifications have consequences. Remember the 1930s in Europe? I push for this because curiosity is the top skill of our time. And the better we're able to ask questions, ask intelligence, the better we're able to utilize and shape that intelligence.
Yes, I love that actually. If I may, I will end on that thought, which is, how many of you remember when like the internet and Google search first came out? Everybody's hands should be going up. We're not mad. Okay, so if you, and I assume you probably were because you're in this room, were the type of person that used Google to ask interesting questions and educate yourself and find out new facts, then yes, you have the top skill of your time. You have curiosity. You actually have nothing to be worried about and everything to be inspired by. If you were somebody who only used the internet for cat videos and illicit videos, then probably you should be concerned. But this is like the giant genie box that can tell you anything that you want to know. It can give you like so much more information, and it's all now about designing to use that system. So curiosity is everything.
Thank you. Meet each other, take an hour, take a minute break before the next thing. Cheers.